Yankees pitching coach Matt Blake. Matt, this team is going through it. The pitching staff is going through it right now. Yesterday, we received the news that Clarke Schmidt will likely have Tommy John surgery. Just how big of a blow is that for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's been tremendous for us, last few years in particular, but, really coming into his own this year. So obviously a tough one to stomach for the group.
Did you notice something different in his stuff, his last outing?
Yeah, I thought his command was a little less sharp in that outing. Felt like he was guarding against it a little bit. He'd been kind of grinding the last probably 3-4 weeks, but, throwing the ball well and then, posting on his every 5th or 6th day. And I just thought it looked like it was a little bit more impactful in that outing, and obviously we pulled them early.
Looking back now, he said he had been feeling it since about the first week of June. Did you notice anything then? Because he was getting the results out there, which kind of makes it interesting.
No, not in the games. I thought his work in between was maybe a little bit lighter, and obviously working hard to get back for his starts, but it's kind of the nature of in the middle of the summer for starters in general, so you're trying not to make too much of it, but in hindsight, is there something we probably could have got to sooner? Maybe.
No official decision has been made yet, but Cam Schlittler, one of the guys, mentioned to possibly take his spot in the rotation. I know you worked with him a lot during spring training. What do you like about his stuff?
I think he's got a steady demeanor on the mound. He's got a really good fastball. That's kind of the backbone of who he is. And I think he's got, a couple of complementary secondary pitches that kind of help him get righties in, lefties out. But really good fastball to kind of start the conversation.
Talk about a guy that has done a nice job all year long, Max Fried. Perhaps no one better to be on the mound. Just what does it mean when he takes the ball for this team?
Oh, he's a steadying force for us for the most part. He's going to be pretty efficient in the zone. He's going to get after the hitters. Hopefully he's going to get, deeper into the game to help the bullpen. So, hopefully he's the guy that can steady the ship for us a little bit. How
much pressure do you think the rotation is feeling, not only because of the losses, but also because of the way the bullpen's been used? A lot of innings out of those guys back there.
Yeah, and, we'd been good for the last 2 months, and then you hit this little lull here, maybe the last 10, 12 days, and, it adds up quick. So a couple short starts. Guys are kind of pitching a little bit more than maybe they're accustomed to or in different roles than they're used to, and kind of gets things a little out of order. So a good start today would go a long way into an off day.
How difficult is that to manage, knowing that guys are probably being extended a bit more than you would have liked at this point?
Yeah, it's it's the nature of the season. You're going to get on at some point, but obviously when you're going through it as a team and the relievers are wearing it when you're in close games, it's obviously a tough thing to manage, emotionally and physically.
Luke Weaver had been so good last year in the beginning of this year. First 24 appearances, I believe, pitching to an ERA just over 1. Last 7, that has not been the case. He almost seemed like he was at a loss after the last one. What are you seeing from him? How do you get him back on track?
Yeah, just a little in between. I feel like the stuff's been pretty crisp, velocity-wise, shape-wise. I think maybe nibbling a little bit with the fastball, falling behind some counts, and then having to come into the zone aggressively and against some good right-handed hitters, and obviously made a mistake with the changeup the other day. But I feel like it's just a little out of rhythm, a little out of sorts, but hopefully physically he's in a good spot and we can kind of continue to build.
How difficult is that to get right when you're being put in there in high leverage situations when the stakes are the highest?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of being a high leverage reliever is you don't get a lot of soft landings. So you're facing some of the best hitters in tight spots, and a lot's asked of you. But he's a strong competitor, and he's got some emotional resolve, and I think he'll work through it.
Do you think he's okay physically? Since coming off the IL, it seems like the struggles have kind of happened a bit more.
Yeah, I think he's okay physically. I mean, obviously it's a little bit of the sharpness and command so far. Just probably falling into some bad counts and getting to the big part of the plate when he has to come back in the zone. So obviously need to get in a little bit of better rhythm, attack the zone a little more efficiently, and go from there.
Fernando Cruz is here at Citi Field. He seemed really encouraged with the progress he's been making. Any idea when he might start his throwing program?
Not sure on that one. I know he's feeling a lot better than we anticipated early in the process, so that's encouraging. So I would imagine we have those conversations over the next week or so.
And you have another guy in Luis Heel that threw a side session today. He's making his way back, building up a little bit. What can you tell us about where he is at in his rehab process right now?
Yeah, so threw a bullpen today here at Citi Field. He's got a Tuesday live BP, probably about 40, 45 pitches in that range. And then hopefully, entering his rehab progression in games, and we'll go from there.
When do you start considering him to be a real option up here at the big league level? What do you need to see? How built up does he need to be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that, 70, 75 pitch mark's kind of a general threshold to get get kind of starters back in the mix where you're not overexposing the bullpen. So I think something around there would be in the conversation, but obviously, kind of see how these next few go and see if that makes sense.
Still early, but what you've seen from his stuff, how close does it look to what we saw from the American League Rookie of the Year last year?
Yeah, he's looked good. I mean, the velo's there. I think the sharpness of the secondary's been there. Now it's just a matter of, building up his pitch count.
What type of a boost would that be for this rotation who has suffered some big losses this year?
That'd be huge. I mean, obviously he's become a, accomplished starter quickly in this league, and I think, he's got the stuff to back it. So if we can get him back in the rotation, it just thickens us up a little bit and, takes some of the pressure off the other guys.
Anything new on Ryan Yarbrough?
Getting closer to throwing, should be in the next couple days, and obviously we'll build from there.
Matt, I know you have some meetings you got to get to. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. See you guys.